Class 6, Part 3, Visual Storytelling for Painters. Thank you guys for being so, as always, so generous with your time and helping me with my paintings. It was so fun and terrifying to paint glazes and everything else. And anyways, that was wonderful. So let's go ahead and jump over to our Padlet page. And actually, so because timing is, we only have about a half hour, a little more. I'm gonna go ahead and save the class review for tomorrow. Good. Does that sound good? Yeah. Or would you guys rather do class review today and then spend almost all day tomorrow looking at work?
Let's do your recap today, and then tomorrow is all about our work.
Okay, that'll give you an extra day to turn in your stuff. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Everybody's good. Brett, you're cool with that? Thumbs up.
Yes.
Do you need
Brett
to
says, all right.
pin yourself?
I'm going to. Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, everybody sees our Padlet page?
Yeah. Yep.
All right, so I went ahead and scrolled down. So I don't know how many videos. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, 9 things down is where I start doing that painting. I know somebody was asking about that. Yeah. And that was just a little bonus video. And I also have one more, I believe, to share other steps of that one or the other one, I'm not sure, from another Thursday class. So, or not class. It is not a Thursday class, except for tomorrow. Tomorrow is a Thursday class. So videos, art inspiration, just read that from Graham. And I love this. There's enough unhappy things in the world. Painting should be one of those things that brighten your day. And I really think, I mean, that's what we got on Wednesday mornings and Thursday mornings. Just you guys are all awesome. I love hanging out with you guys and talking with you guys about art and painting. So yeah, it's just a nice little break, right, from the daily grind and the everything else that's going on.
And
so thank you.
You probably already know this, probably everybody already knows this, but I just found out that Bob Ross was a former drill instructor or drill sergeant.
Oh, yeah. Really?
And that he got into painting and being sweet because he was so sick and tired of yelling at people and making them suffer. I had no idea. I was blown away.
Yeah. There's this one of the most sad documentaries is about his life, and well, more about what happened to his paintings and his family and everything after. But yeah, wonderful to learn so much. Yeah, he just decided to be happy, like midway through his life. Just went, you know what? I don't need to yell at people and scream at people. He adopted a squirrel.
Yeah, and his paintings are going to be auctioned. I want to say the first week of November. There are a bunch of them, and the proceeds are going to go to funding PBS.
Yeah. They're going to be doing 3 at a time for a couple months. And yeah, I think that's just so cool. Yeah. Not being political, but I believe we all need PBS in our lives. I listen to that like 2 to 3 times a day.
Yeah. All
right, online links. Okay, the next class. I told you I wasn't going to advertise twice, but here we go. Here's the link to that. It looks like I've got about 7 or 8 of you guys joining us so far. You got 2 weeks, so no urgency, but would love to keep the band together if we can. And so there's that. All right, class 6. So what I did was just took a bunch of our handouts from this semester, this term, and just did a quick synopsis. So it's really actually short because the whole back end is just the step-by-step thing. But I would love to talk about for the next 30 minutes what it is that you each took. And unfortunately, I can't see you guys. So I'm going to try and pop open the screen so I can see you. Okay, there we go. Great. Again, this is the first time I've taught, about storytelling in paintings. And I think you guys are all very understanding that I didn't mean it in a very literal sense. right? It's not, a beginning, middle, and end, and it doesn't usually have figures, but how do we tell a narrative, or how do we add narrative to landscape painting, right? And I was intimidated. I was scared. Like, how do I teach that? It's something I think about, but I come from a illustration background with an English teacher mother. Like, these are things I think about. So yeah, a good landscape painting doesn't just say, look at this. It says, come in, look around, and stay a while. What do you guys think about that?
I think the idea of storytelling in a painting is a difficult one to answer, but in thinking about it, for me anyway, I have to start with myself. When I look at a subject to paint, I have to say, what is this subject saying to me? Why do I want to paint this? Up until this point, up until this class, I just see a nice scene and I want to paint it because it's a nice scene.
Right.
But now I'm thinking, why is it a nice scene? Why do I think it's nice? What is it about it that I like? So what moves me into that story? And from there, I can possibly think of some kind of a story, which would be a reason to be, a reason to have this painting be. But without figures, it's very hard to tell a story. You can tell a mood, you can tell a feeling, but to tell an actual story without figures or, houses or boats,
Animals or anything. Yeah.
yeah, it's very difficult.
Yeah. And I do think of storytelling in the vaguest of senses oftentimes, but at the same time, I really appreciate what you said about, it's okay, how do I take this pretty thing, or this thing that I'm, whatever reason, attracted to, whether
Yeah,
it's subject, whether it's light, whether it's color, whether it's, what mood, whatever it is, and how do I incorporate that next thing?
yeah.
How do I keep the viewer moving through it? How do I keep them into it? Again, just talking about like people looking at your paintings in the gallery, it's like sometimes the biggest compliment is when a person looks at your painting for 3 seconds versus 1 second, right? And
Yeah.
then you still won. Like, it's such a funny thing. But yeah, anybody else have any thoughts on why storytelling matters in landscape painting?
I think the thing that we talked about in the past was to pick a word or a sentence that you have in mind.
Yeah.
When whether that's peace or tranquility or curiosity, whatever that mood or that one word or one sentence is, that's the thing that I find helpful, is to keep that
100%.
that one word or that sentence, like Graham was
Yeah.
referring to keep that, pasted up on your easel next to that painting or whatever it is, so you're going back to it.
Yeah, one of the worst things my wife ever says to me about my paintings is it looks like two paintings within one, right? And I get what she's saying, because I totally lose the plot. Like,
Or
one,
your mood changes from one day to the next.
exactly.
Yeah.
And somebody that's combining references as much as I do and things,
And I do the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
All of
Yeah.
a sudden, the light's
Mhm.
going two directions or whatever the case may be, but it's really, I have to glue stuff up.
Yeah, I think we
That
should
word,
do
that
that as
sentence.
part of our next session of classes, is have at least 1 or 2 weeks, or maybe that's a constant reminder of kind of what is your word, what is your theme. Yeah, that's a great reminder. Thank you, Gail.
The thing that I have actually written down, and it's in front of this painting because I feel like I am imprisoned by it, is I don't have to do this. I get to do this.
Mm.
Such a luxury to be a professional painter. So I want to relax a little bit.
Yeah.
100% now. Yeah, exactly. I literally, this morning when I woke up, my knees were hurting and I didn't want to get out of bed because it was cold and early. And yeah, I literally just said, my little makeshift prayer, meditation, whatever you want to call it, was just like, you get to do this. You get to go hang out with 15 cool people, talk about cool stuff. And yeah, it was wonderful. So yeah, I think that's a great reminder as well.
And Michael, I just want to address what you said right at the beginning. You said, you asked, was the class worthwhile? Was it, you said it was hard to put together, but it really meant a lot to me. I think I'm really on this journey from becoming, or trying to become, to move from being a literal journalistic painter to more poetic. And, there were a lot of concrete suggestions in this class that were very valuable. And I feel like it made a fundamental change just in this amount of time in what I'm doing. And so I think it should be one of your anchor classes now, honestly.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, and Gail made a point of this, is that most of my classes I talk about the poetry.
Yeah.
Because again, like just like you said and Gail was mentioning, is I don't consider myself a journalistic painter. Like even when I go out plein air painting, I'm manipulating, I'm changing, I'm looking for the thing that most draws me in. I'm bored by recreating. Not that it's not a great challenge, because it is, but I don't care. I could take a photo. And so, I think that keeping that like idea of poetry, keeping that idea of storytelling, because storytelling too is, we don't have to be fictional, right? We can be nonfiction authors of our stories. And, who are the best storytellers? Your uncle that exaggerates, right? Makes everything a little more colorful, a little more interesting. Right. And I think we all get to be that. And again, I absolutely am amazed and excited when I see artists that are so journalistic and can just really replicate. And I think there's a time and a place, but just knowing that's not me. I don't have to be that guy. I get to be, I get to be Laurie Orwick's son, the poet.
The other thing that I really like about that notion is that you can really push or pull, whatever it is you're after. Just like you were demonstrating today when you were glazing, you really pushed and pulled the color. And I think that that's what makes things so poetic, is when you can look at what it is you're trying to say and exaggerate it for the viewer in a poetic way.
Yes, to help tell your story.
That's good.
I always just think back to like we have a big group of friends that we go camping with multiple times a year for a week at a time. And, there's just, sitting by the campfire, there's definitely some people I'm really excited to sit by, because I just know they're going to tell a fun and interesting story. And other people, I'm like, I'm gonna have to listen to their story. And it's, everything, all the details, and it's just too much versus, so how are we good storytellers? And that would be a fun thing. You were saying this could be a class that I could continue on, and it would be really fun for me to investigate movies and books and all the different things and say, why are these good and how can we incorporate those ideas? So anyways, thank you so much. The heart of the story. What is visual storytelling? Landscape painting is more than replication, it's translation. Through mood, light, and composition, we invite viewers into a moment that feels alive, the stories we tell without words. I think that's the tricky part, right?
Yeah.
Graham, you were saying, without using people or buildings or anything else. I am not against that. You guys feel free. I know that Brett threw a figure into his painting. Wonderful. I used to have figures in a lot of my paintings, and I may go back to that. I'm not against any tool to tell your story, right? So if it's, a dog, an octopus, and a bear walking through the woods, it's going to tell a pretty interesting story. And so whatever it is that you need to do, if your story is about, two bananas and an orange hanging out on a countertop, that's great too, right? Like whatever it is. So you guys do not need to only paint landscapes, but I'm hoping that going forward, you think about these concepts in whatever elements you're using in your paintings. All right, in visual storytelling, we use subject, composition, light, color and what's left unsaid. I think that a couple of you guys excel at this naturally. I think Gail is a phenomenal example of what's left unsaid. Linda Morgan O'Connor, I think you're really picking up on that in the last year with your foregrounds and your just different areas of less spoken about. And I think we would all agree that Linda Camerata is a master of this, where she just finds these funny, quirky, interesting things in these images, not even the thing I would focus on all the time. And she just brings it out and then, you know, is able to disregard what's unimportant. And then the main person I would think about when I'm talking about this, well, actually two of you, is Michelle Fritzler, even though you haven't been my student recently. Shame. Is Michelle got so poetic in some of her beautiful little quick sketches towards the end of, boy, what was that, 6 months ago, a year ago, maybe. And then Darlene Crow as well, as you took, and I talk about you a lot, Darlene. One of your things you said in my class is one of the greatest compliments I've ever gotten as a teacher, in that you took 6 months, 3 months to 6 months to paint a painting, and that you're knocking out 3 in a day. And you're more happy with any of those than you were with those ones that took you
Oh, yeah.
months. And it
Feels
was
so much better. More fun. It's more fun. It's less stressful. And hence it's, you know, instead of getting all tightened up and your shoulders hurt and your neck hurts, I'm much more relaxed. So it makes it fun.
Yeah, and it's what you're leaving unsaid. I really think that it's like these expressive brush marks that say much more than 1,000 brush strokes. Is a couple good brush strokes are really important. And that's something I really want to keep working on. I've brought up Anton Pavlenko a number of times, a buddy of mine that I paint with fairly regularly and show with, and a good buddy of mine. And I just went out with him painting, and he did 230 by 40s while I did 116 by 20.
Wow.
I don't know. I mean, he's young, so his shoulders are still good, but but it was amazing how he just uses a huge brush and just loads it up with, you know, multiple colors in one brush stroke. And all of a sudden you're just like, oh, that's a tree in like 1 or 2, 3 brush strokes. It's amazing. So yeah, just again, if we're thinking of the poetry, what's left unsaid is just as important. Storytelling isn't always literal. It's emotional, poetic, and atmospheric. Why storytelling works. Humans are wired for stories, right? That is, I mean, again, there's nothing better than a good scary story by a campfire, right? Or I mean, we're a camping family, so we spend a lot of time sitting by campfires, and we have a fire pit in our backyard. So when people come over in the summer, we're going to end up sitting by the fire with wine. And that's my favorite, is just jokes and stories by the fire, just hearing about their kids, hearing about now, gosh, being 50 grandkids. It's amazing. I'm so excited. I'm going out camping with my buddies. We got one of my friends' funerals this week on Saturday, and then we're going up to the mountains for 2 days. And I know we're just going to be telling stories about this amazing friend. And like, I just look forward to it. I've been thinking of all these stories that I want to tell about him, that, you know, and I just think that storytelling is so integral to who we are. When we talk about our great grandparents, and when we talk about our, you know, heroes, it's rarely in just stats and statistics. It's generally in a story that represents them. All right, humans are wired for stories. Even in a painting with no people, we seek relationships between light and shadow, rocks and water, silence and movement. Finding stories in nature. Nature doesn't hand us a plot. We discover it through interaction and mood, right? For those of you who are plein air painters, I know, Brett, you're getting out there and plein air painting a lot more. I know a couple of you guys are experimenting with that more. It is an interesting thing, right? When you get out there and it's just overwhelming, right? It's just so much information coming at you from all directions: the weather, the temperature, the bugs, the people, all of it. And we have to sit there and digest that and figure out what do we focus on. Yeah, Brett, tell me a little bit about your experience, because you're a new plein air painter this year.
Actually, it's been an interesting summer because I've been doing it now for 5 months. I did it every Thursday up until just recently. And when I first started off, it was kind of overwhelming. You know, you get logistics and getting your stuff and get yourself organized. But as I did it a lot, plus I'm going out with the group, and it's like this group, they're real supportive of each other. And at the end of the day, at the end of the session, we all meet and go over our work. So, but yeah, it was, to me, it's all like figure painting where I go out to figure. So I find that once I started doing it, I get a lot more out of it than I do from a photograph. But, you know, I spent part of my learning curve was, you know, I started using a viewfinder, which I never used before, and starting to look hard at what I can actually paint. And it was, you know, first couple of times, you know, but you just kept on improving. And that's where the class was really interesting to me, because sort of into August, I was starting to feel like I was putting out competent paintings, but I really felt I needed to work on focal points and foregrounds. So the class has been very useful for me on that camp. But yeah, plein air painting, yeah, you go out and have a good time. But I would say 3 out of the 4 ones, I actually got a bunch of them. Now that I've taken the class, I want to go back and revisit, because I felt they were competent paintings, but they were missing something. So now I'm starting to look at it.
Yeah, I'll be curious if that is a bit of the narrative sense that it's, you know, that's what you're missing, or yeah, because again, I've known Brett for a couple of years now in another group that we're a part of, and it's been so interesting watching his growth. And Brett's just so open to suggestions and challenges, and the other 2 gentlemen other 3 gentlemen in our group are even tougher than I am. And yeah, it's just so much fun. And then I love Brett's use of color and line, and just a whole different way of painting than I do. So it's been fun. So anyways, thank you, Brett.
Question, Brett, do you use acrylic when you go out painting?
Yep. I use
Okay,
acrylic all the
thanks.
time.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, I did a couple with my tablet, but most times I'm all acrylic, and that's a part of the logistics thing, because it's a little hard. You have to lug more stuff with you with acrylic, and you know, you carry water and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, once you get it down, it's not so bad.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it is, don't judge your first plein air painting by your first 10 times plein air painting, because the first time you're going to forget half the stuff. The next time it's, you know, I mean, you just got to figure out how to set up and how to deal with the light and the wind. And yeah, Brett is right that there's something, it's so different than painting from photos, so different from painting from my monitor. And it was interesting. I was just saying that I went out with Anton recently, and we went to the same spot we went 6 months ago. And we went to the same basically spot. I mean, we were maybe within 10 feet of standing in the same spot. And I was attracted to such different elements within that scene. And so was Anton. And it was so interesting because as I was driving out there, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to paint these 2 trees that I painted last time. They were so cute and fun and interesting. And I got out there and I was like, nope, my mood was different. You know, the light was different. Everything was different. And yeah, it was really fun. So anyways, I strongly suggest it, with full knowledge that it is brutal. And the first couple of times are devastating. You will suck. I promise you. All right. The art of the question. All right. So this is again what I go back to in my teaching, is that I hope that I'm not giving you guys more answers than I am inviting you to ask better questions of yourself and your work. If I am, stop me, remind me, you know, that I'm not here to teach you how to paint. I'm teaching you here how to think about painting, questions to ask, and tools that you can use to express yourself better. Great paintings ask. They don't answer. They invite curiosity and emotional resonance. Tools for telling your story: design, balance, and color. Every compositional choice is a narrative decision. Ask, what mood am I creating? What does balance, how does balance guide the viewer's emotional journey? Do my colors support the story, right? And again, we'll be talking about that a lot during the winter terms. Foreground is invitations. This is last week's class. The foreground, the foreground is your hello. Make it count, right? It doesn't mean it needs to be filled with detail. I mean, a lot of times the foreground is the least detailed part. Bold colors for attention, texture for realism, leading lines to guide the eye. I'm going to cough again here in a second. Pattern and shapes to anchor chaos. What story does it tell? How does it support the main subject? Regini, what do you think about that? Because you have been working on your foregrounds for the last year. I think that's been something you've really been focusing on, because your skies are, I think you could paint skies in your sleep. And your foregrounds have become such a focal point. I would say the same with Nyla as well, of leading. How do we lead the viewer into and through the painting? What did you think of that class and that lesson about foregrounds as an invitation?
Yeah, it is. I like the idea that foreground should be like an invitation, and especially when with the grass, and yeah, I think we should have more textures and more bright colors. I'm still not able to do that much, but definitely like to learn and do it.
Yeah, I think about like the last painting that you did in the last class, the semester before, and that was such a big thing, and it was so interesting. I think it may be even over your shoulder above you there with the trees and the little bit of a road there, the middle up the wall. I'm not sure if that's it, but it was similar to that, and how you were figuring out the balance. And how I think you did the painting 2 different times, and how just even moving a tree or a bush really changed the whole flow and movement of the piece.
Yes.
Yeah, and we talked about that a lot in the painting that I did with the tree on the rock there, that you guys pulled my own words against me and we're like, you created a barrier in the front. I'm like, I know better. I talk to you guys all the time about that. And it is so funny because you get to a point and you have to turn in your paintings for the gallery. But truly, if I was to do that painting again, I would do it so differently, thanks to your guys' reminder of what I've said. And it is funny that we just have to and you got to keep relearning and investigating. And yeah, I felt like without it, when I did my initial sketches, that I was just floating, right? It just felt like even more precarious. So I like, I need somewhere to stand. So I'm grounded. But then I built it up in such a way. Anyways, yeah. All right. Small stories, big impact. So this is something that we didn't really cover in this class, just due to not having enough weeks. But I would love to explore this with you guys. And I have a couple examples of some of my favorite paintings I've ever done is where I'm just looking at things differently, like looking at the mud puddle and the reflections. Darlene Crow, going back to you again, you did that where you had the creek and the really busy forest with all that. And it's like, okay, that's so much information. It was chaos. And hopefully you saw the video where we talked about it, because we spent a long time talking about your photo.
Yeah,
and it was like, okay, yeah, how do we zoom in? How do we find the thing that we're into in this? For some people, it was purely the reflection. For some people, it was the bank and the trail that we could invent and create through there. And, so yeah, for, small stories, big impact, find a section of landscape, identify mood and interaction, annotate with notes. This is something Anton, again, even though he's 20 years younger than me, does so well, is in his thumbnail sketches that he does every time. And he doesn't even use a small little thing. He does his thumbnails now like this big, with charcoal and just does these really not great sketches, but just really interesting. And within those, he's writing notes. Like this painting is going to be about the tree twisting and leading us into this. And I just got to get back to that. I got to do more of that because I've become lazy a little bit. I'm using Photoshop. I'm using my camera more than my viewfinder. I'm using, you know, all these other tools. And I'm kind of like, okay, stop, get back to the basics, right? Annotate with notes, like light softens here, or texture adds tension, or these lines lead to here, which leads to there, whatever it is. Atmospheric perspective, my favorite. I think that's what we just did today on the second painting that we did, right? It was all about how do I create this glowy, soft light. Atmospheric perspective, create depth by adjusting clarity, color, and contrast. Tools, lines shrink into the distance. Proportion and overlapping, create space. Value shifts and soft edges suggest depth. Does anybody, I think we could talk to Eloise again about this one, because you did the nocturne painting that was so good. I think it was a circle.
Which one? The green one?
Yeah, not
airport.
the
Airport.
Yeah,
Oh,
the airport.
the oval one
Yeah.
of the road.
Yeah, but I just think you did such a good job with creating space, even though you flattened out your foreground, like it was just dark with some lights. And then you had the overlapping over clouds and space, and then the clouds overlapped over each other. And then value shifts and soft edges. That was a big thing that I noticed in that. And you had another one, I think even before, maybe the painting before that, which was really interesting to me. Yeah, spatial layers. Here's something that I didn't think about for a number of years. It was probably about 5 years, 6 years ago when I really discovered that, and I was doing it kind of innately, but I wasn't thinking about it in these terms. Spatial layers. So I think about like stage sets, right? You can have the foreground, the middle ground, the background, and then, you know, the actors can act in between them. But the spatial layers is the foreground is oftentimes your detail and texture. Your middle ground is your transition, which is again what we were working on with the second painting that I did, right? Where we had to get those waves to fall back and read towards, you know, those cool waves in the foreground to that bright, bright, bright light in the back. That middle ground is that transition that unifies the two. Background oftentimes is cool hues, not today, but sometimes cool hues and minimal detail. Focal point or areas of focus, which I prefer. Foreground is intimate. So again, if you put your focus in the foreground, it becomes more intimate, right? If it's about the flowers and you've added the detail, you guys saw the lavender painting that I was doing. There's times where the painting is about the plants, the foliage, the flowers, the rocks, the whatever it is in the foreground, and then the rest becomes a supporting character. But sometimes the main character's in the middle ground, right? And that creates a more balanced feeling, right? It's a little more calming a lot of times. And I believe oftentimes if we're just going for walks or we're just, you know, doing daily life, that's kind of where our focus is in a general sense. You guys could correct me, but I think if we were just staring at the, you know, the foreground, we become caught up like a little kid, right? A little kid, when you take a little kid for a walk, they notice everything. Whereas we as adults begin to notice the distance, kind of where we're going. And then the background is ambient and dramatic oftentimes. So your attention. So again, going back to Regini in your paintings, I think that oftentimes up until recently, your paintings were much more about the background, right?
Yeah.
It was about these gorgeous colors within your sky, which I never want you to stop. But I found it interesting to watch you begin to think about these other elements, especially the foreground, where you're, you know, changing your focus. Nyla, you've done the same thing, where yours was kind of a mid-ground focus always, right? It was about the trees and the shapes, and the background was often just kind of nondescript or just colors. And then your foreground, yeah. So it's interesting. And I'm not saying that we should all do all of these things. So Graham, I would say yours is a midground to background focus on almost all of your paintings.
Yeah.
And that's great. And that's a part of our style and a part of who we are when we're presenting a body of work. But I really think it's really interesting to step back and think about these different layers. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, focal point placement. Same thing. Foreground is intimate, middle ground balance. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just repeating myself here. All right, building a painting step by step. So this goes back to my way of, again, I want you guys to all do this, is to just start to analyze your own work. I've been doing this for a long time and I do it all the time, but just going, okay, why am I all of a sudden in a slump? Why are my paintings not working out? What's happening when they're working out more often? There's no guarantee ever, right? I could literally write a highly detailed list and it's still no guarantee my paintings are going to work out. But think about like, okay, I've had 3 misses in a row. Why is that? Right? So I made a list for myself that helps me to hit a higher percentage of paintings, right? And that's what this is. You guys have heard it many times if you've been with me, but this was super important for me to go, okay, there is a structure to when I'm more successful more often. So I highly encourage you to reflect on that in your own work. And it can be the opposite of my list, right? So for me, it's collect inspiration, plan your thumbnails, test your colors, begin with structure, pre-mix your colors, paint with intention, but I still want to be open, right, to happy accidents, as Bob Ross says. I want to be open to having that conversation with my painting. Otherwise, it would be too boring and I just wouldn't work for me. Step back often. For those of you who sit when you paint, make sure you're getting up at least once an hour. You just won't see the painting the same if you're just staring at it. And then one more visit. And for me, that's often that just being willing to make the little changes that will make it that much better. And again, that is a gamble. I may overwork the piece, but that's okay. Because what's my motto? Every painting is about the next painting. All right. Every painting is a sacrificial lamb. Because we're going to continue to learn and grow. And yeah, so we have to be willing to kill our babies, whatever. We have to be willing to just go, this painting is so that the next painting can be better. I don't think the student is with us, but one of the students said, just remember to thank your painting and then put it away.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. I would love to hear your thoughts. And I don't even know if I caught all of the different lessons and handouts. There's a lot of them. Those are all here under the class handouts. So we got foregrounds, atmospheric perspective, perspective in depth, homework, thinking like a storyteller, guiding the viewer's eye. See if I can move this over. My self-critique, which you guys, I urge you to take that, put that into a Word document and make it your own. Do not copy mine. This is my self-critique. This is me. Make your own. Building a landscape, painting from idea to finish. And then this is from a previous term. And again, I just appreciate Darlene Crow and other of you, Lisa Holmberg, a number of you guys just ask such good questions. This one was a disaster for me. Darlene just asked, how do you make a good painting? What a basic, odd question. And it set me into a tailspin of literally asking friends, looking online, reading, looking through all my notes. And yeah, it was such a, again, like, what makes a good painting? Ugh, Darlene, damn it. Yeah, and my wife was like, you're spending way too much time on this. I'm like, I know, but it's so interesting. So yeah, I just made a list of things that are important to me and things that I think about in painting. And even just different styles of paintings that I'm interested in and would like to do more of. And so yeah, I mean, that's just what's so fun and what's so neat about the internet even too, right? Is you can just ask a question and all of a sudden there goes 3 days of your life as you investigate. And you know, it's like discovering a new band and then going, well, who inspired that band? And all of a sudden, yeah. So anyways, that's from a previous class, but yeah, that was the Darlene owes me about 80 hours of my life. Questions for the class. Let's go ahead and do these really quickly because there was a couple really good questions this week. Of course, one is from Darlene. I also have a question related to varnish. Oh, this is a new one. I don't think I saw this one. I also have a question related to varnish, but not acrylic varnish. I had put varnish on an older painting, but now see some corrections that should be made. I am assuming you cannot paint over varnished oils. Is that correct? Graham says, I'd like to know the answer to that as well. And then I believe that's Linda says, I know that if it's Gamvar varnish, you can safely remove it with Gamsol. And Darlene says,
oh, excuse me. Does that work the same for Damar or just Gamvar varnish?
No, Gamvar. I do not know. I think you have to use a much stronger solvent, like real paint thinner to get rid of the other one. Yeah, I would suggest you don't paint over it. If it's Gamvar, which is what I use from Gamlin, super easy to remove. I've had a couple issues, but you just literally take Gamsol, the paint thinner that I use, and just wipe it on. I let it sit for a minute or two and then wipe it off. And I can paint right over it. With the other varnishes, I would suggest you look it up. I would also probably just suggest you don't paint over it and just move on to your next painting. Yeah, that's the problem with varnishing is it's kind of like I'm done. But for me, like if a painting doesn't sell in a gallery and I get it back, I am instantly figuring out what changes I can make. I mean, even that one I told you about the silly moon that I put on, like now I've got to unvarnish it and either take the moon out or turn it around so it's facing the right way.
I think Damar dates back to the turpentine of people that used to use turpentine to get them. It's a long and very slow and tedious removal. It has to be done in tiny little
Q-tips.
Tiny little,
Yeah, there's people whose whole career is removing varnish from old paintings so they can restore them.
Exactly.
And it is, I mean, you can see videos online of it and they're literally wearing gloves with, just little tiny Q-tips. So Darlene, if you don't know, I don't know either.
Well, that'll give me an opportunity to redo it because it's one of my months long, maybe a year long I worked on this thing, and now I see things that need to be redone or undone. Although it's not the style I particularly like now, I've kind of changed my style. So it gives me a chance now, I guess, to redo it with a different style and see what I can do.
You'll paint it in hours. Yeah, I mean, again, I have stacks, especially when I get them back from galleries and things. And that's a big question for me is like, do I change these or do I just throw them away or what do I do with them? Because a lot of times the fixing takes longer than just painting it again.
How long would a gallery keep it before they would return it back?
100% depends on the gallery. I have galleries that keep them for years and I have galleries that every 6 months, want a new set. Also depends on the painting. If they're really confident in it, like, yeah, I have some paintings where I'm like, I should probably take that painting home. It's been here for 2 years. They're like, we have confidence in it. It just hasn't met the right person yet. So yeah, I don't know. Okay, oil over acrylic matte varnish. This is Linda Morgan O'Connor. Just want to confirm that it's okay to paint in oils over a layer of satin acrylic varnish. I would like this to be a boundary layer. Is there a better product? I have, and I do sometimes paint over because most, but you're going to want to check the bottle.
Yeah.
Most acrylic varnishes are actually just acrylic medium, which should be fine because they are semi-porous. If it is a true acrylic varnish, like a spray or something like that, unless it's a workative fixative, they are non-porous, and your oil paints just won't really have anything to grab onto. You can do a slight, light sand layer, sanding it, just to give it a little bit of a tooth, but you do get this kind of blurry cloudiness to it a little bit.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I have another suggestion, which I have one friend who used to do this all the time. You know, they have clear gesso. I don't know if anybody here has used it. It has a bumpy surface.
Yes.
And because it's acrylic, it bonds well to the acrylic below, but the bumpy surface lets the oil bond better to the acrylic.
Yeah, I just got a bottle of that to experiment with because I'd heard about it. So yeah.
And I actually just did that this week. That's a great suggestion, Jada. Yeah, and with that, what I've also found is putting a coat of that on with a little bit of water, because it really does almost feel like sandpaper once it's dry.
It's amazing, yeah.
It's very porous. So if you're going to be doing a lot of glazing and stuff, but you can take a fine grit sandpaper to that. And I found that doesn't seem to get foggy. Yeah,
that may be the best thing.
Yeah, I've got a number of big commissions that I'm working on. See if you can see them over there. See that blue sky? I've got 2 of them, and then the other one, I don't know where it is. But the first one,
that brings up a question for me. So you're talking about an acrylic varnish. Is that going over an oil painting or an acrylic painting?
No, never ever.
Okay, this is an acrylic painting.
You want to tell us what you're doing, Linda?
I'm going over right now. I'm looking at going over an acrylic painting with eventually with oil. Yeah, once I figure out the proper way to do it.
Yeah. Oh, so what I was going to say is, so that's a panel from which direction? That's a panel from American Easel, and I had them pre-gesso it for me, which is great because it saves me 1 layer. But normally I put another layer or 2 layers of gesso over it myself. And the reason is that their gesso is so fine and so perfect that it's really, really, really slippery. So one of the bigger commissions, 3 foot by 4 foot that I'm working on, I came back to start working on it after a full week of letting the background sit. And as soon as I touched it, the paint just came right off.
Wow.
And so it just did not grab on at all. So I ended up having to, a week after having spent 2 days painting, a week of letting it sit, I ended up wiping as much of it off as I could with paint thinner. And yeah, and it was a big bummer. But the funny thing is that little residual paint that was left was enough for the next layer to bond. But before it wouldn't. So luckily, these other ones that I had, because I had 2 more sketched up, and I just hadn't re-gessoed them. I was in such a rush, and I thought their gesso was so great, and it is, but it's very slippery. So I just put clear gesso on those because I had already done the drawings, and these are pretty technical paintings. So I'd drawn them with pencil. And I was just like, oh, I don't want to spend all that time redrawing, because that's the worst part for me. That's the right brain versus left brain part of my work. So yeah, acrylic gesso was fantastic. I mean, transparent gesso. So yeah. The other thing is just simply using acrylic medium, which is kind of an in-between, and yeah, and it will be fine.
Okay.
All right, Darlene, with yet another question. How do you get really popping brights? I see them in Michael's work as well as many artists, but mine seem dull and lackluster. And I kind of went crazy on that one too. I don't know what it is about Darlene's questions that makes me go deep diving. I just want Darlene to like me so badly. So I do have a handout, and I should have just gone back to that. It's probably deep down in here about creating glowing colors and whatnot. What did you think of my responses, Darlene? Did those work for you?
Yeah, I thought that was very good. One of the things I've watched you do, though, you mixed a yellow with a tiny bit of red, and it seemed to pop for you. And then when I tried it, it looked like it was sort of brownish or dull. So I'm assuming it depends on which yellow and which red that you mix together
Correct.
to make that clear, bright, popping peach.
I'm going to let Regini answer this one. So Regini, when you mix the wrong red and the wrong yellow, why does it turn brownish?
Maybe the brush is not very clean.
That's one answer.
And yeah, maybe you should dilute, add some white to the yellow.
Maybe
That's another answer.
I'm thinking there's a little bit of blue in
Yeah.
the red.
Yeah.
You know, when that goes with the yellow, it makes it brown.
Yeah, correct.
And that's the answer I was looking for.
Yeah, whether it leans warm or cool.
Yep. All right. Handy dandy, right? This is feels like such a waste of time to make it. I look at this thing all the time, these color wheels, right? So when you're dealing with a split primary palette.
Can you show it big on your screen for a minute?
Sure. Oh, sorry, I'm still sharing. Gotta stop the share. Now, do you guys see it?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So these are my different color wheels, right? I've got my just primary palette with cadmium yellow light, cadmium red medium, and ultramarine blue, which
Are these
gray.
acrylic? Are these
No,
acrylic?
these are oils.
Okay.
And so, and then I've got the Zorn palette over here, and I got my CMYK palette over here. But this, gosh, sorry, everything's backwards. But this is my typical palette, right? The split primaries, 2 reds, 2 yellows, 2 blues. And it's interesting. Let me see if I can change the light. No, the ultramarine still looks just like black. But when you're mixing so what you have to think about is, does my yellow lean towards orange, or does my yellow lean towards green? If it leans towards green, it means it leans towards blue. Right? So if you want to make a very vibrant orange, I don't know how to do this. Why is this so? I'm totally backwards on my screen, so it's so strange. But I want to use a red that leans towards orange and a yellow that leans towards orange to create my most vibrant orange. If I'm using a red that leans towards purple, it means there's a bluishness to it, right?
Yeah.
So you can already see that. Like if I mix this color, this is such an experiment. And this color, it's going to create a really dull orange somewhere in between, right? So when you want to create the most vibrant, colorful colors, you want them as close as they can be on the color wheel.
But isn't there also the issue of the medium? I mean, linseed, for example, makes colors look more brilliant because of the shine or the transparency or whatever. I don't exactly know why it does, but
That is true, but I think that is like going into the weeds again. I don't. Yes, that is true. And certain colors will definitely age differently and turn more brownish, or, oftentimes they get a yellow tint to them, a gold, like a brownish yellow tint. So that's, yeah, that is absolutely true. So yeah, here's what I wrote. A mix of color purity, strategic placement, and technical layering. That's my overall generic thing. Avoid over mixing. Mixing too many colors can lead to muddy tones. Keep mixtures simple and intentional. Limit white. Excess titanium white can kill vibrancy, right? We saw that when I showed you guys those transparencies that I was creating, where I showed the same color where I added white versus just making it transparent. Transparent mediums, or opt for zinc white for subtler shifts. I don't even own a single tube of zinc white, but I do know that it is a brighter, lighter color, but it does lean itself towards cracking.
Mhm.
Thin layers of transparent color, which is what we were doing today, over dry paint to build depth and luminosity. So did you see what I was doing today, Darlene, where I went back in and I actually added white to the areas that I really wanted that bright, glowy color?
Yep.
Knowing that the transparency, I could have put an isolation layer in between. That's what Linda Morgan O'Connor was asking about with her acrylics. So that would mean that I put my paint down and then I put a transparent layer of something in between, whatever that is, some medium or whatever. You could even use oil if you're willing to let it dry for a long, long time. This is something that Maxfield Parrish did so very well, and so importantly is that you create that transition layer so that the let's just say the white goes down, and then you put a clear layer on top, let that dry, and then you put your colors on top. So now that the color on top is not affecting the white, it's being affected by the white. It's not staining the white. So today, the first one I did, I put a medium in there. So those are going to be a little clear. And then you saw in the second one where I didn't use a medium at all, that it became more foggy and cloudy and a little more atmospheric, right?
So what medium do you use then? That's really interesting. On top of the white, you kind of put something like linseed oil or something, and then let that dry, and then come in with
Yeah,
color.
so what you're doing is just creating that little thin layer, and the paint beneath it is locked, right? So imagine, let's just imagine a piece of fabric that you wanted to put a dye on top of, right? You wanted to stain you're gonna tie dye your shirt, right?
Yeah.
And you could put something on that fabric, like a spiral design of some kind of a medium of some sort, that the dye no longer affects the fabric,
right?
That area, right? So it's not staining the fabric. Right. So you're just creating a barrier. Watercolorists use retardant like that, so they can just rub it back off and all of a sudden it's white in those areas. That's not a great example, but yeah, so that's something I would love to experiment, but I have not found a good medium, because for the most part, they're shiny and they're slippery and they become so non-absorbent that the paint won't really adhere to them very well.
Yeah.
So this is something, I mean, I've even had conversations with Gamblin Paint Company talking about this. Is I would love to do Maxfield Parrish style illuminated paintings, but I want to do them in an impressionistic fashion.
Hard work.
Yeah, and your colors get muddy and they start to, I want to do transparent, thick brush strokes. So that the light really can move around and really get into those paintings. And I am having a hard time finding something where that works because of the mediums being so darn shiny, and they just don't keep building on each other very well. So that's like one of my long-term goals. I have a lot of long-term goals as a painter.
I watched a
ahead.
very interesting video last night on a different type of finish varnish, and they used this person used, and it was over oil for an oil painting. It was cold wax, and the advantage there I learned, and he actually mixed color, mixed tone into the cold wax. And there are a couple advantages. One of the advantages is that you can work back into cold wax. You can just paint back into it if you decide you need to make adjustments. The other advantage is you when you buff it, and he used a shoe polishing brush, which is brilliant. I had never thought of that. I've finished some watercolors with cold wax, and they're awesome.
Yeah, me too.
Never thought of using it for oils or acrylics, and you could do it for either. But the other thing is when you buff it, you can buff it selectively. So you can have one area that's a little bit more satin perhaps, and other areas that are a little bit matte, if that's gonna give you an advantage in your painting. I just thought it was something I want to try.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
find that video or link, I'd love to see it. Because
Sure,
yeah,
I'll post it. Yeah.
Me
I've got
too.
a number of things of cold wax, and I've only ever done one big painting, and it's one I've kept. It's downstairs, like
Yeah.
right when you walk into our house. And it's so
Right.
funny because everybody's like, "Oh, I love it." I'm like, "Yeah, that's my only cold wax painting I ever
Yeah,
did."
yeah. And this isn't cold wax all the way. He just did it at the end as
Uh,
a varnish, right?
Yeah, you can use it as a varnish, and you can also
Yeah.
use it for glazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I watched also I was doing this deep dive YouTube deep dive on and that's where the question came for, just on boundary layers, varnishes, and trying to figure it all out. And I watched the one by Scott Gelatley. I don't know if I'm saying
Yeah.
his name right, but
No, you're saying it right.
with using Gamblin, because they make the Gamvar, and they were mixing Gamvar with some cold wax, and they said that you can do that too. And
Yeah,
I
you can mix it
suspect
all the way up to 20,
20,
80%. So you can do
20%.
80% of Gamvar or Gam.
Yeah. And
Scalp,
I'm
whatever.
suspecting that their satin, Gamvar satin, which is the one I like to use, I bet that has cold wax in it.
It does.
Yeah.
I bet I wouldn't be
Do
able
it.
to use cold wax with water soluble oil though. I do it with watercolor, but the watercolor is completely dry when I cover it with cold wax.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think everything has to be completely dry. I wouldn't want to go in with that on anything that was not dry.
Oh, so you don't mix it into the oils?
No,
Okay.
that's a painting process where you're doing a cold wax painting. No, this is totally
Oh, no.
just just using it as a varnish. Yeah, once the painting has dried. Yep.
Yep.
But you can glaze. I mean, you can add a tone, you can add color to it, and a small amount of color, and then it acts as a glaze. I will post that video. I did save it, so.
Great.
Yeah, so
This-
my only notes on that where I was talking about painting with it thickly is when it's thick, which you can do, you can leave it on very textural, but it has a milky quality to it when it gets thicker.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would lose purity, but maybe for a tonalist piece, that might actually be pretty cool. Maybe I should experiment with that. Because yeah, I have multiple containers of their cold wax.
Yeah.
So Linda, I have a question for you. When the oil painting was finished, they used coal wax to buff on, and then to buff it after, to rub it on and then buffed it.
Yes, you put it on, you buff it. He used to, you can buff it. I use silk. I've used silk,
Yeah.
and just a cloth or flannel. I've seen people use flannel. He used, which I thought was brilliant, a shoe polishing brush.
Yeah, one of the fine.
Yeah. So I got to get one. I don't have one.
Yeah. I have my daddy's old shoe shine brush.
Yeah.
I'll have to
It
dig
might
it
have
out.
some stuff on it though. You wouldn't want on your painting.
Well, I have not had very good, and I've used there's another wax for watercolor that I have somewhere that I used on watercolors to seal them, so I wouldn't have to put it under glass.
Oh, yes, I hate under glass too, and that's why
Yeah.
I was going that direction with watercolors too, yeah.
Yeah, but I have had really horrible experience on this big painting that I did with Gamvor satin. And I
Mm,
went back to the Michaels store that I buy gambling paints from
Mm.
and the varnish, and there was no fresh Gamvor.
yeah, when-
All they had was the gloss, the Gamvor gloss.
right. I think that it's risky and you can't really use it after it's been sitting around for a year. And I bet that stuff could sit around for a year.
Yeah,
It's,
and
you know,
I bought it and it was a fresh bottle that I opened and
yeah,
I put 3 layers on it and it was horrible. I had
yeah.
the horrible experience of my hair getting grayer because I had to wipe
Oh.
off 3 layers of Gambour varnish off.
Oh, no.
So
yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to do.
Michael, I have an unrelated question. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to get going, but in the next class, are you taking Thanksgiving week off?
No.
Does it go through the Wednesday before Thanksgiving?
It does, but it'll be recorded.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Yeah, I don't like turkey, so I don't
Ah,
care.
you can have whatever you want at Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Tell my family.
Michael, I have a question. I have few canvas boards which are square type, like 16 by 16. Can I use them for some sky painting or?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, no, of course. Use any surface you have. Just keep painting.
No, but this is square size.
Because it's a weird size.
Uh-huh.
No, that I love square formats for sky paintings. I think they
Okay.
really work well.
Okay. Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, actually 2 of my paintings that won awards were on square formats and were just sky paintings. So
Okay.
All my paintings are square.
yeah, that's
Oh,
true. Graham's
okay.
only square.
Yeah.
Graham, you're such a square.
I'm a
Oh, okay.
square.
All right. Well, I could keep reading these notes, but you guys can see them and visit those. What I wrote to Darlene about glowing colors. And this was a wonderful discussion. We're already a half hour long and we're going to meet up here in less than in 20 hours. So you guys got some painting. You guys got some painting to do. So yeah. And I want to take a nap before I go drink wine, evidently. You guys are fantastic. Thank you again. And for those of you who are new to my class, normally we critique and look at your work a lot more than we did in this term. And normally we look at master's works and other contemporary painters. So it's been a different design to the class this term. But it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of demos, as you guys have seen.
Very good.
But it was kind of fun to do 2 big paintings and we kind of finished right on time. And so anyways, any and all feedback about this class, what you liked, what you didn't like, what you'd like to see differently for next term or winter term or wherever you're going to join me. Again, I'm just trying to be the best teacher I can be. So, I've got a thick skin. Please let me know what you liked, what you didn't like. And the best thing about this is that we're all in it together and having a great time. And I can't wait to see you guys in 20 hours. All right, Eloise, you will not sleep for 2 days straight.
Bless her heart.
I know. I plan to keep myself very busy, but very comfortable. I have put all the other artists on my classes. I don't want to be around children.
I think that's good advice as a general rule. All right, you guys. Well, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. And yeah, I really do love all the feedback that you give while I'm painting. I think it's a ton of fun. And yeah, during the break when my cousin was here and I was telling her thank you for walking the dog, I was just like, I'm so lucky. I've got all these great painters that are all giving me feedback in progress. Like what an amazing thing, like that I get to do this. And It is a lot of fun, and you guys are a lot of fun. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Have a good evening.
Take care,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye, guys.
Michael.
Bye.
Speaking of master's works, I'm painting the Mona Lisa on a ceramic. There's gonna be like a studio thing where it's like, come in and paint a master painting on a pumpkin.
That's so cool.
Hopefully it takes me at least 18 of the 20 hours. We'll see. We'll see.
All right. Well, I look forward to seeing it.
Have
Very
fun.
soon.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Tomorrow. Bye-bye. Bye.